The race to the bottom of the abyss continues for the Los Angeles Lakers as they fell out of play-in contention on Tuesday night. Matt, I got a very, very, very simple question for you.
All right.
Are the Lakers going to make the playoffs?
No, I really don't think they are. I mean, especially if LeBron isn't in the lineup. But even when he is, it doesn't seem to matter because he can drop 39 and there's still going to be an L at the end of the night. This is a Lakers team that was just basically poorly put together at the beginning of the season. I was not sold on this roster or on this lineup.
You were not.
I was ready to call it quits at, I think, around Christmas or January. I was saying that this team is done.
Yeah, you were.
And basically, it's just continued to show. This is not a well put together roster. They did not build well around LeBron James. Russell Westbrook just hasn't worked out. Anthony Davis cannot stay healthy. This Lakers team is really just fighting to get booted out of the play-in right now. And at this point, it's the Spurs. I mean, it's going to be up to the Spurs whether they can make it or not. If the Spurs decide to, lay an egg, then maybe. But the Lakers have no control or say in this.
What was my simple question at the gate? Are they going to make the playoffs?
Yeah.
Who gives a damn? Because I don't. Because I certainly don't. And this is an absolute disgrace. I mean, year 19, LeBron, for everybody in the Los Angeles Lakers franchise to be in the same building as the greatest basketball player ever in year 19, still damn near averaging a 30-point triple-double, should be on all NBA first team. And to have the Lakers sitting outside of the play-in is just unfathomable and an abomination. Any other adjective that you can use, it applies here because it just doesn't make any sense. And here's where I'm at with it. The Lakers, they just completely need to clean house for next year. I'm talking about Rob Pelinka needs to be gone. Frank Vogel needs to be gone. That entire roster needs to be rebooted aside from LeBron James and maybe Anthony Davis. And I would consider maybe moving Anthony Davis if there's a suitable trade partner, if you can get back valuable assets. Everybody else in that roster can go kick rocks at this point because this is a complete and abject failure. And again, to be doing this to LeBron in year 19 is just awful. But in terms of the plan, I expect them to be in the play-in. I expect them to be in the play-in, and they can maybe, again, it's all really hinging on LeBron's ankle. If he can be healthy for the play-in game, I can see them maybe escaping and getting into the 8 seed, perhaps maybe the 7 seed. But what does that really mean? They're not going to beat Phoenix if they end up the 8 seed. And they're not going to beat Golden State or Memphis either. And I was even willing a few weeks ago to say that they have maybe a puncher's chance against Memphis. But from what I've seen from them Rough Riders out there in Memphis, John Moran, Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, Jared Jackson, and the boys, they're not going to let LeBron and this crew beat them in the postseason. So this is a mess. This is over with. I was wrong. You were right. This man tried to tell me that this wasn't going to work. And and me, believing in LeBron and, his ability to make people around him better just hasn't worked. And Russell Westbrook was a big fan of his. I still am. I still love his game. But this was a disaster. And hopefully he can resume his career elsewhere next season and hopefully maybe build back, some of the equity he's built over a Hall of Fame career.
I mean, the GM and Jeannie Buss are going to be busy trying to figure out how they move on from here. I'll even say this, though. I mean, if they get into the play-in tournament, they have to win 2 games. I think they can win that first, but then they're going to have to either play Minnesota or LA as it's set up right now. I don't give them to be the favorites in either of those games, especially now that the Clippers have Paul George back.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. This was, basically doomed from the start. This was a team that I think trusted that Anthony Davis was going to be healthy a lot more than anybody logically could trust Anthony Davis to be healthy. Yeah, I agree with you. They got to do a complete overhaul of this group and really think about the moves they made and why they made them.
Yes.
And I'll say this too, nothing happens at this level of the NBA without the star player giving the okay for it. So it's going to be interesting to see how LeBron and the front office work together to fix these problems. Because no matter what you hear, Kevin Durant had the final say on that trade for James Harden.
Yep.
I know there were reasons to pick Westbrook over re-signing Caruso, going after DeMar DeRozan. They got to change their whole approach and really think about what talents they need to put around, not just LeBron, but figuring out how they're going to fix this number 2 situation. Because day-to-day Davis is not the option.
And I have to say this too, and I can't completely absolve LeBron of blame here because, as great as he is and as great as he's been on the court this season, you mentioned it. We all know that he is kind of a part-time GM. He has obviously more than the average say of an NBA star in terms of the moves that are made front office wise. And again, he has to take some blame for allowing, again, I don't know, how much he was a factor in these decisions, but I know he was involved somehow in allowing Alex Caruso to leave, KCP, Kyle Kuzma, bringing in Russell Westbrook over guys like Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, trying to maybe really make a legit run at Damian Lillard, although he was probably never going to leave Portland. But LeBron has to take some blame for this as well, and hopefully he uses this as a learning tool, and hopefully when he gets back in his GM bag this offseason, hopefully it's a better outcome.
I mean, and to be fair, to be honest, the way the NBA works nowadays, the front office is always at least communicating with the number one player.
Right, especially
no matter
what.
LeBron. Every good organization, I mean, I just heard CJ McCollum talk about how Dame was always in the loop on that situation. Right. You keep the star player in the know because you don't want to piss off the star player. Yeah. So it's not just LeBron. Obviously, he's like the clear example, but every star player knows what's going on within their organization and those moves.
And just another sign of how much of a disaster this was. At the deadline, Rob Pelinka and LeBron weren't on the same page. Nope. Rob Pelinka came out and publicly said that him and LeBron were on the same page, that they weren't going to make any moves at the deadline, and LeBron said that wasn't true. So there's a disconnect between Pelinka and your star player, which you were just talking about, which is true, should be a normal necessity in the NBA, especially when you're talking about arguably the greatest player in the game. So this is just a complete failure from top to bottom. And it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be a stain on LeBron's legacy by any means, especially with how he's performed individually, but it's certainly not a good look, especially, and I know those people who are on the Jordan side of the GOAT debate, they're going to definitely use this one in future debates. But that's going to do it for us, though. For Scott Proctor and Matt Morris, catch you on the next episode of Simple Questions.